Hi guys, welcome back to In the Hot Seat with Emily Diala and Dr. Viviana Coles. I'm Emily and this is Dr. Coles, and
Hi.
we are so excited that you've come back to join us today. Just to kind of catch you up to speed, we are on Series 1, exploring the different pieces of sexual desire, and this is episode 3. And today we're going to talk about all the different factors. We're at least going to start the discussion on the different factors
This
that
is
can
going to be a
influence.
two-parter, because when it comes to factors that influence sexual desire, they're countless and they're very individual, and some feel like they're unique and some feel like they're universal.
And sometimes it's a combination of more than one. It's very complex.
Sometimes it's relationship specific, sometimes it's individual specific. So today we're going to talk about, let's talk about the obvious one.
Yes.
Stress, meaning high stress and low amount of time.
Exactly.
How many times do you get clients that come in and say, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have the time for it, and I'm never in the mood.
All the time, probably on a daily basis. I mean, we live in a very high stress world right now. On top of that, we don't really stay in the village. You know how they used to say it takes a village to raise a child? We don't really stay in the village. So if you add, if you have two partners who are both working full-time jobs and you have a few kids at home and you have a 30 to 45 minute commute, I mean, where in the day?
And throw in a couple financial issues and health issues.
Forget it. It's just not
Sex
gonna
is
happen.
out the window. At least not at the same time. You've got the person who's, kind of tapping on you at 10 o'clock at night, and the other one who's like 3 in the morning.
Exactly.
And getting those two people to mix that, somebody's going to give.
I think it's important. We talked a little, in case you missed it, go back to episode 1 where we talked some about the gender differences, but they kind of come into play with this one as well, because I think that women tend to take a little more time to move from like professional role or mom role to feeling sexual, whereas for men, the amount of time that takes isn't as long. And so that's
they kind of describe it when they come in.
Right.
Like, I feel like he can flip a switch.
Yep.
And I just can't. I need to rev up. I need to rev up the engine. It's not a push start.
Exactly. I always say that women are more like an oven, men are like a microwave. It just takes women sometimes a little bit longer to warm up, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a gender difference. I think we do ourselves a disservice to either pretend that gender differences don't exist or to minimize them. Instead, what we have to do, and what Viviana and I help couples do, is figure out a way to negotiate and manage the differences that are inherent.
Right. So when it comes to stress, I do find that women tend to be able to deal with stress a little bit more easily. And that does not mean that we don't get stressed out. It means that we tend to call upon a whole bunch of tools that we've learned throughout the day or through our lifespan,
or to our friends,
to manage those stressors. Whereas men tend to, again, it's not everybody, put that little asterisk, but men tend to bottle it up, push it down, and then it blows.
Yeah, they can be like a pressure cooker.
It can be like a pressure cooker. And when they tend to come to see us is when it now starts affecting their sex drive, which used to be pretty high, which used to be higher than their partners, which used to be insatiable at times. And now all of a sudden, I've checked out my hormones, I'm doing okay, I don't have any side effects from medications, what's going on here? We ask them about their stress levels, inevitably
through the roof. There's a ton of pressure, and I do feel bad for guys sometimes, because I think that we don't look at the pressure that is on men sometimes. I think it's, we've been told that women carry the burden of having the children and raising the family and being superwoman, but men have a lot of pressure on them as well.
They do have a lot of pressure.
We have to acknowledge that.
And if we acknowledge that in therapy and bring out all the different ways that their stressors are kind of impacting them, especially their sex drive, you can see the relief wash over them.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yes, that's exactly what it is. And then their partners kind of light up like, well, I can help you with that. How can I help? I know this whole stress game. Let me help you out. That's one of the key things that comes in.
Yes.
Again, it's not the magic bullet though.
No.
No, sometimes low time, and there are some couples when we're talking about low time, I ask them to bring out their calendars.
Me too.
I'm like, when is this going to physically be able to happen? And then we start talking about who's going to give up what and why it's important. Because this is a couples issue very often. It's not just on the burden of one or the other. So something's going to give. And it may be that they decide to do that once a week, once a month, once a day. We don't know what it is. And that's something that we'll talk about later on, is how frequency
and really maximize the time that you do have. So for a lot of busy couples, that's the weekend. So, you know, I think it's a misconception that sex is only good if it's spontaneous. I always like to remind couples that when you were dating, you were scheduling sex. You just didn't call it that, you know, but Friday night rolls around, you make sure maybe you shave your legs, or you put an extra spritz of cologne. You are scheduling sex.
You don't start an argument via text at 12 p.m.
No,
if you're going to be getting together for a date at 8 p.m.
Right. So if weekends is when you have a little bit of extra time, do like you did naturally in the beginning of your relationship and allow yourself to rev up for it. It's a positive thing.
Absolutely. If you're having trouble picking out what's going to give, I would say see what your babysitter can handle.
So have a good sitter.
If you have the availability factor, then you can open it up to more. But if y'all can't figure out, well, is it going to be his guy's night or my ladies' night, or is it going to be this gym class that I like to do? Well, let's figure out when the sitter can come, and then y'all break it down that way. And that's just to begin. Now, the other big thing that comes in with this is poor self and body image.
Yes, that's
and that affects men and women. We talk about body image, and it's like women.
Oh, men have it big time.
Especially when it comes to their sexual functioning and sexual performance. Going back to stress, when it comes to performance anxiety, we do tend to think about men. And a lot of that is just a function of their sexual body and anatomy. You know, it's kind of difficult to have sexual intercourse if you're having erectile issues. And the high stress is what tends to cause a lot of men to have poorer. It's not always, you know, wonderful to begin with, but it definitely impacts their erectile functioning as well as their desire.
I would say, definitely, I would say that stress usually impacts desire for women. It probably impacts erectile functioning for men,
or even just the way that they experience pleasure.
Right.
You know, when you're not feeling good about your body, or even who you are, maybe your identity is really linked up with your work performance, and you just got a bad review.
Definitely.
That's going to fall into play, and it's going to definitely make it to where you're questioning all parts of yourself and how you're doing in all parts, including your sexual life.
Absolutely.
So talking about that in therapy is something that we do often, especially with men. We want to make sure that we're decreasing stress, we're upping their positive self-image.
Right.
What are some of the things that you do to talk about positive self-image with men?
I mean, I think it's important to look at how stress affects the body from a science. So I'm going to get a little science nerdy on you guys just for a second. So if we look at the sympathetic nervous system, that's what kicks in when we are under high stress. Like if you've ever heard of that flight or fight reaction, that's the sympathetic nervous system. And because we live in such like a chronic high stress world right now, it's like it's always turned on. What happens when the sympathetic nervous system is turned on is that sexual function goes down. Usually the digestive system shuts down. Usually the pupils dilate. There's when you feel nervous, a lot of constricted blood flow. Exactly. So what we try to do is help couples get out of that sympathetic nervous system activation and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So really thinking about what calms you down.
Relaxation is such a game changer for both men and women. Men may not want to soak in a tub as much as women do.
You know what? But that's you know what exercise my guys like? I always give them this exercise is before you leave the parking lot from the office, take 2 to 5 minutes. It really doesn't take that long. In the car, exactly. While you're in the parking lot, before you drive home, and just take a few deep breaths and like mentally separate, okay, I'm leaving work at work and I'm going home.
It's that transition time.
Exactly.
And if you're living in a major city, you've got 20 minutes at least.
Yeah.
20 minutes can make a world of difference by the time you get home. I think that that's awesome. I think that for women too, talking about body image, do most men, and I know the answer for my clients, but do most men really care as much as women think they do about their physical sexual appearance?
They don't, to a degree.
To a degree.
You know, I think really visual. What it is, what's attractive is seeing your partner take care of themselves. So I always tell my clients, you know, let yourself age, but don't let yourself go.
I love that.
You know, it's not about, it's not healthy, you know, and it doesn't look good and it's not attractive to just completely stop caring about yourself. What's sexually attractive is to say, wow, that person values themselves enough. They have the esteem.
That can look like a lot of different things. We're not talking about, hey, go make an appointment with your plastic surgeon. We're talking about taking time out to jog every once in a while, to read a book that you really like, to cut down on caffeine and alcohol if you want to for a little while. Something that shows that you care about your body's well-being and your mental well-being as well. And that might mean scheduling a little trip, a little escape. That might mean buying some new pants or some high heel shoes.
I'm always about the shoes.
Yes. So that can look all different sorts of ways. It can mean taking a new cooking class. It can mean trying a new hairstyle.
Doing something that you're passionate about. When you see your partner doing something that they're passionate about, that's attractive.
And it's sexy.
Yes.
Definitely. Super sexy. So let's go ahead and give y'all our hashtag hot seat challenge for the week. This week, what we're going to do is ask you, when was the last time that you laughed during sex? So what made me laugh during sex was ... fill in the blank.
People take sex way too seriously sometimes.
It's so fun and
sometimes it's funny, and you have to be able to laugh about it. So we want to encourage you guys to do that.
It happens to everyone. So hashtag hot seat. Make sure you fill in the blank. What makes me laugh during sex is ... And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.